All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on what part of the world you are joining us from. My name is Alex Faust, your host of Conversations at the Edge, and I am very excited to have Arnie Malham, maybe our most seasoned Conversations at the Edge guest, back for another episode to talk about your favorite topic, which is culture. And today, I'm excited to talk about culture in the relationship that it has to retention, hiring, productivity, things that, are really, I don't want to call it plaguing, but difficult aspects of running a business today. And if you're not familiar with Arnie, he is an experienced entrepreneur with a culture first mindset. He had three successful business exits and written a best-selling book on culture called Worth Doing Wrong. He's rocking the shirt. And has delivered what is sometimes an uncomfortable message on leadership to thousands of entrepreneurs. And today he's turned all of his attention towards a concept that played a huge role in creating the successful culture of growth that his two former businesses, CJ Advertising and Legal Intake Professionals, something called Better Book Club. We'll certainly touch on Better Book Club today, but I want to get started and dig into culture and discuss how company culture can play a role in things like employee happiness and retention and productivity. So, Arnie, welcome back to Conversations at the Edge. I assume you are calling us from your home office today.
Nashville, Tennessee, and thrilled to be hanging out in Central USA and broadcasting to the world, Alex, via your generosity of this telecast. Thank
Awesome.
you. And by the way, when you said tenured, you meant that I've been on with you 4 or maybe 5 times. You didn't mean that I'm an old man and have adult kids as compared to you who are a young man and have a 1-month-year-old. Very different. You meant seasoned as in I've been on the show a lot, right? Is that what you meant?
Yes, of course.
I appreciate that. I love it. Hey, hiring and retention of great talent is always a great topic, and you throw culture in there as a part of that equation. It's on everyone's mind right now. It's on the mind of bosses. It's on the minds of team members who are either really feel aligned with where they are in the organization, with their talent, with the people around them, or they don't. And it's that uncomfortable feeling, that wobbly wheel, if you will, that begins that journey of change that is sometimes good for everybody, but often gives us heartburn because it means turnover for our businesses. And so can't wait to talk about hiring, retention, how culture fits in, and what I can say to sort of lead us on that journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Arnie. And for those who are here live, the last 10 minutes, as always, are for you. So any questions that you have for Arnie, type them into the chat, the Q&A. We'll make sure to get to those before the end of today's session. So, Arnie, we keep coming back to you because you are our guru when it comes to building an engaged workplace. And I'm just kind of curious, where did you kind of learn your culture acumen that, led to you to have such success with CJ Advertising and Legal Intake?
Look, everything that I've learned has been R&D, ripped off and duplicated over the years. The books we read, the people we meet, the experiences that we get to be fortunate enough to go be a part of, the tours of other businesses where you pick up ideas that are both good and bad for your business. But John DeJulius, Cameron Harrell, Jack Daly, Vern Harnish, all these people talk and speak in terms of culture, all of them and dozens more. I guess I just won 4 friends and then pissed off another 20 who I didn't mention. All have shared through presentations, through their books, through consultations, through workshops, the experiences that built our culture over the years. It's important to know that no one person built our entire culture. No one idea changed everything. It was the combination of those things that I want to encourage every leader out there to look at. Who you are is who your culture is, and who you are takes place over time, not in an instant and not with one book or one idea.
That's great. And so, you've talked a lot, in your book, in your course on this show, that every organization's culture is inherently different. And the uniqueness is part of what makes some cultures great for some people and not so great for others. But are there any core characteristics that you say every great culture that I've seen, been a part of, are doing these things, however many they might be?
Well, there's three. I'm gonna try to hit three topics on that question. One is my go-to phrase: culture reflects leadership. It makes many uncomfortable because it, just like me, many years ago, when I realized my culture isn't what I wanted, I looked in the mirror and realized I'm the problem. So culture reflects leadership. If you have a great culture, it reflects your leadership. If you have a poor culture, it reflects your leadership. So number one is the leader has to realize that culture reflects leadership. It's not your team, it's not your clients, it's not the industry, it's not the economic times. Culture reflects leadership. Two is that cultures need a story to survive. Cultures need a beginning, a middle, an ongoing journey. A language of one's culture is as important as the energy of one's culture. And so tell that story. What is your origin story? What are your core values? Where did they come from? What language do you use in your business that's unique to you? Name your culture if at all possible. We were camel culture. Like you guys are green salad.
Yes.
Is that right?
Green salad
culture.
Yep.
There is no right or wrong name. It's a name that fits the stories that you tell. And so culture reflects leadership. Culture reflects the stories you tell. And culture reflects the programs you have in place, the sustainable, scalable programs that your company has in place. List them out. If you can't list them, let's start with one. If you can list several, then how sustainable and how scalable are they? How do you recognize people in your organization? How do you encourage growth? How do you recognize their families? How do you show appreciation? How do you display who you are to others that come in your building? All these things are elements of a culture that reflect who you are. And if you have none of those things, then we're not reflecting a lot of things. So again, leadership's number one, the stories you tell number two, the programs you have in place is number three. The combination of that becomes your culture.
That's great. And so when it comes to programs, you mentioned in number one, culture reflects leadership. Is it leadership who's owning these programs? I mean, we've got a culture committee at Growth Institute. I'm curious, like, who owns the activities and this ongoing evolution of the culture? Should it be a culture team, a culture committee, the CEO? What's your philosophy?
Possibly another uncomfortable moment for many. If leadership tries to actually execute these culture programs, it will fail. If HR says, "Oh, we got this, we're going to take on all these culture initiatives," it'll probably fail. Not because either of those people are incapable or incompetent, rather. It's that this is not what they come to work every day. It's not their top shelf priority, right? The leadership has their own priorities. HR has their own priorities. We've had the most success by making sure every program had a unique champion. One person in the organization, not on leadership, not in HR, that was responsible for that program, right? They had their normal job, but they also had this program to show the entire team what they're capable of and to work in an area that they felt ownership of. That person had KPIs. Here's what the program success looks like, and they reported on those. They had responsibility to their teammates, and they also had responsibilities to all the other champions, right, who are each running a program. And so there's unity in that sort of, I got this one, you got that one, let's both run together. And so when whether it's Better Book Club or a recognition program or a family birthday gift combination or the holiday party, for God's sakes, whatever it is, when a member of leadership says, "Oh, this is important to me, I got this," I know it's not going to happen. It's going to. I used to come back from conferences all the time, excited about new programs. I'd read a book. Oh, I got to go do this. It was on the top of my desk, and then 2 weeks later, it was on the side of my desk, and then 2 weeks later, it's not even on my desk, or it's buried by the things. And so, make sure we had the most success by making sure that each program had a champion. That champion knew what success looked like. They had permission to fail, and they had the support of their teammates. And that's where we started getting programs that didn't last 9 days or 9 weeks, but years, right? As they were scalable and they were sustainable.
I want to go a little bit deeper on that because I'm curious, your people are running around like crazy. They got more work than they know what to do with. How do you keep this like culture, by design in these programs going
Right.
when people are super busy executing their daily activities? How do you make it not feel like extra work, but something that's really a part of the work?
Well, we want it to become we want it to be a privilege to get to work on these things, right? It can let you excel in areas outside your work, but you have to take a step back from that question. If your team members are in a constant state of overwork and overexertion and too much and not time for anything, you're not the leader I need you to be. Right? Because you would a great lead. No one talks about great leaders as people who overwhelm their staff with more work than they can handle, or give them too much to do, or overload their capacity on a constant basis. Does it happen weeks here and there, or months here and there during projects? Absolutely. But if your team is in a constant state of overworked and underappreciated, that's not good leadership. And so we got to fix that first. But if they have the appropriate amount of work where, they throttle up and throttle down, there's no one that can't take on a good culture program that's going to take maybe two, one at the worst. Oh my God, crazy programs at 4 hours a month. I can't even think of one that would take that long. Like, you're talking a couple hours a month to manage a program, to report KPIs, to answer questions, to improve the process, those kind of things. This is not a take this big load and run with it along with everything else you've got to do that I've overloaded you with, that I don't appreciate you for, that you're not capable of doing. That's crazy, right? So the first step is let's if you're overloaded, that's not a you problem, that's a me problem. Let's fix that.
And so I think it's a good segue. Obviously, folks who are so overloaded that they can't run culture programs probably are not advocates to be staying at your organization more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I want to talk about retention and
Yeah.
how culture plays a part in, getting great people not only to join, but then stick around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, this brings up the age-old question, chicken or the egg, right? Do great cultures attract great people, or do great people create a great culture, right? Which comes first? And my argument, constantly people, when I get better people, I'll have a better culture. That doesn't work. When you become a better leader, you will have a better culture, and your good people will stay, and other good people will be attracted to that culture that attracts them. And so it's number one is making sure you understand what comes first, and that's leadership that creates a culture that attracts the people that want to stay. Now, once they get there, what do we need? What do we need for our team to be happy there? They can't be overworked on a constant basis, right? They need to be compensated in a fair, I wouldn't say abundant, but a fair and generous compensation that recognizes our people's talent, right, on a constant basis. They need to be around people that they like and appreciate, and who like and appreciate them. So part of our job as leaders in our organization is to create that opportunity that people like. One of the greatest programs we had was just the ability for team members to recognize each other and appreciate each other through simple cards that they end up putting in their cubicle or in their office or wherever they worked, so that they knew the people around them supported them and liked them. And so it's just creating that environment that I feel appreciated, that I feel like I'm doing the best work I can do, and I'm growing, right? That's another big responsibility of leadership, is to help their team members grow. And so can you have someone who's hitting their stride, who feels like they're supported, who feels like they're growing, who's being paid well? If you start checking all those boxes, is it possible that they may still leave for another job? It's possible. But with every box we check, we reduce those chances. Are they paid appropriately? Are they have the appropriate workload? Do the people around them respect them? Are they being put in a position to be successful? Are they given opportunities to grow? Like, you start checking those boxes for each of your team members, and the chances of them staying goes way up. And those are the things that you can't do once because you just read a book or just heard me speak or just came from a conference. These are things that we want to put in place. They happen over and over and over again. Our team members didn't get an appreciation card 1 month and then not another one for 16 months. They got appreciation cards constantly, right? We rocked people in huddles and in our weekly meetings and our monthly staff meetings constantly. We sent their kids birthday gifts every year, right? So that they made sure that positive conversations were going on at the home. We made sure the bathrooms were meticulous every day because I wanted our place to be nicer than any place else they could imagine. Like, these are things that and every one of those things I just mentioned had a champion, had KPIs, and had the support of leadership to keep getting it right, keep getting it wrong until they finally get it right.
That's great. Another question that comes, I guess, prior to the retention question is, how do I actually I've got this great culture. I want more people who are going to appreciate the culture, so stick around longer. How do I hire for culture fit and not, just get hypothetical answers from folks who say that they want to be in this type of work environment?
Yeah, well, I could go a couple ways in answering that question. One is, what's your interview process like? How much exposure do you give them to your team, and how much exposure to your team do you give the person? Like, first interviews are the easiest to fake, if you will. I can be great for 30. I can be great for this show, right? And then I can go I wouldn't kick my dog, but I could, right? You would never know. But the more time you spend around me, the more you get to know me, right? And the same is for me. The more time I spend around you, the more I get to know you. And so part of it is creating an interview process that gives you exposure to the candidate. That's number one. Number two is, we want to make sure that they know that what they're seeing around them, or whether it's on your website, or it's in your physical location, or it's a part of your internal web documents. This is who you are. Like, you're not putting on a show for them, and they're not putting on a show for you. That it's who you are. There's a history of programs. There's a history of recognition. There's a history of success with your people, and that's who you are. But the same for them, right? As I've learned a lot from the book Who and How They Interview, or Top
Top
Grading, right, is the longer version of Who's. My Ole Miss version of Top Grading is Who. And so is pattern recognition. So every time we do a deep dive interview, it's, tell me what you did in your life at these different stages, right? If they're young, then you're talking about, what did you do in high school? What did you do in after high school? What would you do in your first jobs? Figure out the patterns that are repeating. Those are the most likely things to keep repeating. If you hear a pattern of things that don't make sense in your culture, you hiring them isn't going to change that pattern. And so recognize those patterns, call attention to those patterns, and let them know how that fits in your culture, and you're more likely to get that repeat, right? If you hear patterns that don't match your values of who you are as a company, then don't think they're going to change because you hire them. It's not going to happen. No more than you're going to change as a company because you hire them. And so number one, it goes back to time with candidates. Number two is look for patterns that are likely to repeat themselves. And I guess number three is always be showing your culture, because most of our candidates opted into our culture, right? Occasionally we hire someone and after 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, you realize it just didn't quite mesh. But most of the time, if we expose them enough to who we are, a good match is made.
Right. And so I just want to reiterate, there's not like a magic question that a company is going to come up with to figure out if there's a culture fit. It's time with the candidate. And
by the way, a culture that is perfect for one candidate may be terrible, like for the let me reverse that. I'm sorry. A great team member can hate one culture and love another culture, but both cultures are good. Both cultures are good. Like, it doesn't mean that this person won't be successful in any environment. It just means that you've built a series, a culture, a set of circumstances that will work for them, and you're looking for that right fit, if you will.
Some people like ketchup. Some people like mustard.
That's crazy, right?
And some people don't like either.
Don't like either. They want it plain. Some people put the ketchup and mustard below the hot dog. Some people put it on top of the hot dog. Like, it's all like, but we got to figure out what's the pattern that's likely to repeat.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to switch gears a little bit to learning and development and the role that plays in an organization's culture, because I know you created a company based on learning and development, and you created Better Book Club because you wanted your people in your organization to read literally about anything. So I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about your philosophy around learning and development and growth and education inside the workplace.
Well, as I hopefully people are sick of me saying, along with culture reflects leadership, is if you can't grow your team, you can't grow your company. And so, as a founder, as a leader in any organization, whether you're a leader of a team of 3, a leader of a team of 30 or 300, if you can't grow your team, you can't grow your company or your division. And so it's about making them better. Your job is literally as a leader to make the people around you better. That is your number one job. And so how they get better becomes the game. And in one line of thinking that is part of bad entrepreneurial folklore, it's my last book or seminar or conference or thing I learned is your next book or conference or seminar or thing you learned. And that don't fly. That will not work in today's workforce. Just because I did it doesn't mean you should do it. What I need you to do is anything that helps you become a better human being. Now, Better Book Club is all about getting books in brains, getting you to read the next book that's right for you and offering you incentive and recognition and opportunity to do that. But Better Book Club is just one area, right? I don't care how you're growing as long as you're growing, but you can't be a part of my organization unless you're growing. So let's find a path, right? And so Better Book Club makes it easy to do with books. It helps get people books in brains, helps them become a better parent, a better spouse, better with their money. I don't care what you do, just get better and you choose. Because if I pick it for you, you'll resent me for it. You won't learn it wholly and it won't become a part of you the way if you pick it and it changes your life.
So talk a little bit about this idea of structured growth paths. The leadership team says, hey, we want our team to develop in XYZ areas versus something that's a little bit more self-directed. Do you think that the self-directed is really like a more effective growth path, or is it a combination of the two?
I think it's if you're part of, whether you're part of scaling up, which or whatever thing you're using to grow your organization, you probably you have themes around either quarterly or annual. And I think leadership's job is set the vision. Here's the vision. Here's where we're trying to get to. Here's the theme we're going to work under. Here's the KPIs and the targets we're going to hit. Now, go get it, team, right? And from that point, it becomes an individual decision on how I can best obtain those goals for the team. And so I think it goes from vision, resources, opportunity, and then from an individual standpoint, this is how I want to get there. And you can buddy up on that, you can challenge each other. But that slippery slope is the minute I start saying, here's what we're reading for the month or quarter. Here's what we're all going to learn. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying that it's a more effective opportunity when it's self-selected and growth is from here and not from here.
Okay. Do you have, when you were running your businesses, did you have a budget per employee that you were saying, I'm willing to spend X amount per year on self-selected training?
Yeah, it was I don't know if we had every program had a budget, right? An expectation of expense, but how people choose to grow, if it was a worthwhile event, we wanted to invest in it, but we leveraged that. We published that we sent you to a conference in San Diego where you learn this for 3 days, and we were proud to send you there. And we told everyone in social media that we did it, and we made sure that everyone in the organization knew that we invested in you, and we want you to know we invested in you. Like, we're going to leverage that to the hilt. But it's just as important for me to pay you $100 to read Good to Great, because that's a much better ROI. Like, I get a lot more for my money with you reading a book that you haven't read than I do sending you to a $4,000 conference. And so whether it's the $100 book or the $4,000 conference, or if we really want, if a lot of people have read the same book and they want to hear the same speaker, we'll bring the speaker in. We can do that much more affordably than sending 20 people out, right? Or we leverage the fact that they're in town. And so we do a deal with the venue and we make sure we can get 15 tickets to something as opposed to for the price of not 15 tickets, right? So it's always looking for those opportunities. And when people, like if I have to force someone to do something, it's not a good investment. When they want to go do something, it's typically a good investment. And so I don't have a, I was a, I was a $30 million company, and how much I spent on my team is different than, a $2 million company or a $400,000 company or a $100 million company. But we always felt if we don't grow our team, we can't grow our business. And so whatever we spend on them is worth it. And it always ended up being reasonable.
You talked a lot about like the KPIs and the metrics that people were responsible for in the culture programs. What KPIs were you tracking in terms of learning and development? How were you measuring the ROI from a $100 book versus a $4,000 conference?
Well, it's the answer is we had a lot of KPIs. People made fun. By the way, if people aren't making fun of you, if you're not making fun of your leader about something in a positive way, then they're not repeating enough. They're not doing enough. So Arnie was made fun of a lot for his KPIs, but like for books, it was how many books have we read? How many people have reached this 4 books a year sort of stand mark? What are our favorite titles? How much money have we spent on this program per quarter? And we chart it and we put it on the wall and we publish it through our interwebs so that everyone knew what was going on. But appreciation notes, how many, we had recognition envelopes, right? At every monthly staff meeting, we give away 10, 8 would have $10 each in them. One would have a 20, one would have 100. We kept up with who got each of these. This person has gotten an envelope every month. This person hasn't gotten an envelope in like 10 months. Like what's going on there? So that's part of the KPI. We kept up with turnover every month on the wall. Here's our turnover ratio. Here's what changed. We kept up with, I'm trying to remember all the different KPI stuff on the wall, but every champion, by the way, was responsible for their own set of KPIs. They could add KPIs, they could subtract KPIs once we got them started. And we would have them put a literal, in my world, a physical piece of paper on the wall. It would have the date published. It would have published by and their name. And if I, as the leader of the organization, ever walked by and saw a date out of place, I'd just take the piece of paper and I'd go put it on their desk. And I'd say, hey, let's update this. Not like you're a terrible person. Oh my God, I can't believe you hadn't updated it. But it's a way to keep it going. Anyone can look and say, this is out of date. I want a new one. I know exactly who to go to ask for it. And because every champion's responsible for their own, I'm not taking 30 pieces of paper to one person and saying, update all this on top of the other stack of stuff you have to do, right? And so it's an easy way to sort of keep it going. But KPIs come down to, how do I know this program is successful? And every program has a different number of KPIs.
I guess I'm curious mostly around the learning and development KPI. Like if somebody was to read a book, good to great, what's the KPI to know if that like made an impact on their life, on their business, or is it just trusting that the fact that they read it is good enough?
Yeah, I know that I know what reading's done for me. And I know it's done for the most of the people that I know in my life. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying that you can't read a book and get nothing out of it. But it's like when you go to the casino, if you can get a few percentage points on your side, I'll take a team who has read at least 2 to 4 books a year over a team who doesn't read any day. And I'll go, you find me one person that won't take that advantage. And then I have no argument, right? Okay. But there's no one who wants a bunch of dumb people who don't read, who don't grow, who don't like it. So this is just a sustainable, reliable program. The old program is, I read this book, here's 20 copies, everyone read this book. That doesn't work. Like it's myth, it's total. Everyone gets mad at everybody when you do that. Like no one likes that program except like people are like slamming their fist right now because I used to do it. It doesn't work and no one likes it. Let people pick what they have. And by the way, reading, I'm a big Better Book Club. I'm promoting it, going too far, but just grow. I don't care how you grow, but grow.
On Monday, I promised my team, I said, I have too many Audible credits right now. Tell me what book you want to read and I'll give it to you for free.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten any requests for the book yet, but I'm waiting. I see a lot of them on the call right now. I hope I get a message after this. Someone wants a book.
Look, constantly pay and recognize anything activity you want, and it's more likely you'll get that activity.
Great. So Arnie, any last words for the community? Any last piece of advice that you want to share before we close up today?
No, but thank you feel like I have been ranting and raving this entire time. So thanks for putting up with my crazy. I'm sorry we didn't get, I know we have like 200 or 300 questions probably built up in our Q&A and we didn't get to them, but if anyone wants to reach out to me, email me. I'll do my best to respond as soon as possible. I'm always available. And if you want to talk about culture, I'm ready to talk. If you want to talk about Better Book Club, I'm really ready to talk, and we can keep rocking all our organizations forward. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Arnie. Thank you so much. Thanks to the community for being here, and look forward to seeing you